And what to look for. Hello, everybody. You know, the reason I'm laughing is I said, now I know what to look for when it says you are live. So I am live. Are you live?
I'm live.
Yeah,
I'm
we all are.
live.
So anyway, so excited to be with you as always. For those first time landing on this channel, welcome to our community. Make sure to subscribe. This way you support our channel here, Geopolitics in Conflict. So how are you?
I am doing really great.
Yeah, your voice sounds better than yesterday.
Perfect.
And yesterday was better than
the day before.
Well, we didn't do it the day before, than a week before because it took you a few days.
Definitely.
But that's just part of how as a matter of fact, I've learned in that sometimes when you get stuff like that, you're gonna have to let your immune system fight it.
Yep.
This is what people don't get.
Yeah.
I don't do antibiotics.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting is we kind of live in a culture where taking
Medication.
any kind of time off is also not something that is allowed, right? And so we all think we need to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. Yeah. And that's something that I would like to change personally.
I know.
So that, you know, we all learn how to take care of each other.
That's why I don't when I get a cold or something, I hardly ever get a cold.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not bragging here, but you know, I take good care of myself. So.
And hi everybody, we see Rajat from Nepal. If you guys want to let us know where you're from, we love seeing it.
Yeah. Just to mention about our sponsor.
Yes, our show today is sponsored by BioTrust Collagen, and we really appreciate our sponsors because without them, we couldn't bring you guys the show.
That's true. So I'm sure they do understand. I like their cause. I do really admire the cause. And the reason I say this is because of during my travels, when I used to travel around the world back in my days in Washington.
Yeah.
And I'll come across certain regions of the world.
Yeah.
Where I saw kids going through the trash. It really saddened me to see.
Yeah.
It saddened me because
and shockingly, that's not just in other places in the world. There's a large homeless child population here.
Yeah.
And for what we're talking about, BioTrust Collagen. And if you guys are interested in it, there's a link in the description box below. It's 5 different types of collagen. And it's from 4 different sources, which I'm very interested in. No junk in it, no GMO, no artificial color, no artificial flavor, no artificial sweetener, none of that junk. But for every order, they feed a hungry child through nokidhungry.org.
Yeah.
And to date, they've given over 5 million meals
Good
to
for them, and I will
right
support
now.
them as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. So thank you, BioTrust Collagen, for supporting our show. And if you guys want to check them out, there's a link in the description. And yeah, I mean, let them know that you found them through us.
Yeah, that will be great. So, well, today we're going to be talking about, should we use the term provocation?
I think
because I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
There is no other equivalent terminology as far as terminology to describe the behavior of United Kingdom.
Right.
So that's what we're gonna get into. But before we do that, you can tell I'm a little bit hyped up, right?
You are a little hyped up, David.
Hold on. Someone yesterday put a comment.
Yeah.
And the comment, you guys know that I read all the comments.
David reads.
I'm the one who reads them and answer them.
Yeah.
And it's because you know my reasons for that, and I always say
it's because you respect our viewers.
That's one.
Absolutely.
And I also learn from them.
Yeah.
You won't believe certain content that they put, and I do. When I answer, I said, I hope members of the community reads these comments.
Yeah.
It's because we're learning from each other. That's the whole
Absolutely.
So somebody yesterday said, well, Doc, you look a little bit down, whatever. I said, no, just didn't have coffee on my way to the studio.
Yep.
Well, guess what?
You had a lot of coffee this morning.
I did. Actually, I'll share it with our viewers. Why not?
Please.
I usually eat breakfast around noon, but today I had to make an exception to eat early. And I usually eat filet mignon for breakfast and some, what's the fermented food?
Kimchi,
thank you.
Okay.
So I do egg, cheese, filet mignon, kimchi, and cup of coffee. That's why I am good to go.
Yeah.
And that's I do one piece of bread once a while.
Yeah.
I don't touch too much carbs anymore.
Yeah, I know. I don't
and
either. I don't either.
That is the reason why I'm hyped up.
Yeah.
But also the topic.
And
No.
what the thing about this topic is, I feel like it leads into a much bigger
Oh, there's
conversation.
much
Okay,
bigger.
there's a lot
You
going
won't
on right now.
believe it. So, but there is two other things.
And I've got some videos.
Sure.
I've got some videos to share.
We're gonna
So
share
as
with
we
that.
go
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
some of the things that Zelensky has said recently, and there's a really big conversation that's starting to happen in the United States. And this is interestingly enough, thanks to Tucker Carlson. So I don't always agree with Tucker Carlson,
Yeah.
but there every so often Tucker Carlson says something, and I go, oh man, that makes a lot of sense. And this is one of those things. So Tucker Carlson asked a very powerful question. Why are we at war with Russia?
That's legitimate question.
It's the
The
question.
Most Americans have no idea.
And that's actually what I respect about Tucker Carlson in this situation specifically, is that he brought up the question that actually needs to be asked right now and answered.
You're right.
Oh, David, I think you put yourself in here. Okay, there we are. So yes, let's talk about what happened.
Yeah. Well, before that one, there are two main things we need to bring up to our viewers. Just to, as I woke up this morning, usually I usually think. You know, I can't stop my brain not to think about what's going on around the world. That's part of what geopolitics is all about.
It is. You're absolutely right.
It's ingrained in me. That's just what I've been doing. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this for two main things. There are two legislations right now in the process of being voted on as we speak.
Okay.
One in the United States and one in Canada. Now, the one about Canada, I'm gonna fact check it physically.
Okay.
I will be going to Canada.
Yep.
And I'm gonna fact check it physically.
Okay.
And what does it have to do with? It has to do with curtailing our freedom of speech for social media. In Canada. Justin, dictator, Prime Minister Trudeau wants to pass, the Liberal wants to pass, you know, I can just see where this is going.
Yeah. And that's been something that they've actually been trying to squash for a really long time, both here and in Canada and in other parts of the world. Australia is in the same position.
Oh, Australia
the Western
is
world entirely is in the same position.
Speaking of Australia, I'm going to be doing live on the other channel later on. So if you guys have time to join me for that, I will be talking about the updates about the Australian economy. Do you have any idea what the media in Australia and the Western world not disclosing for people to know? And I got the info from Aussies on the ground.
Love that.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking. So the
and that channel is Geopolitical Trends, guys. If you just search it in YouTube, you'll find Geopolitical Trends. And David covers a lot of things that are sort of like rapidly happening. So check it out. Yeah.
And so that's the first one, legislation in Canada. The second one is in Congress. And guess what it has to do with? Now that the Senate is going to make it a law, basically, to disclose information about, we've been hearing about exotic weapons, aliens, all that. So, which means what? That means if they voted on it, it's going to go to the president's desk. He'll sign on it. And government will be obligated by law to disclose that information.
Okay. So interestingly enough, that's a passion, honestly, I think for both of us.
Yeah.
Because right now that used to be the realm of like the fringe.
Yeah.
But it's not anymore. Now we're having governments come out and talk about this stuff. So if you're interested in that on my channel, I'll be covering that.
So that is where the issue is. And knowing what I know, you know, now I'm like thinking, should we use the term, was it a distraction? There's more into that.
There's more to that. And there's the guy who just came out as the whistleblower, like the government whistleblower for this. And David Grohl, I think his name is. And it's interesting watching his interview. There's some stuff that I would like to break down.
How about if we do a live stream tomorrow
on it?
Yeah, just on this one. Then we'll go more depth on your channel.
Okay, that sounds great.
Let's
and if you guys are interested in more of this stuff, it is not fringe stuff. This is being confirmed by governments. This is government whistleblowers are coming out about these things. Government whistleblowers and people who have worked for the top defense contractors, they're starting to come out and talk about these things. And I think it's important to pay attention to it. And it's important to pay attention to why they're doing it, because there's some very interesting theories about why that is. Because now, if you look at even the situation with Russia, for example, how long did Afghanistan last? Afghanistan lasted 20 years when it came to how long we were there, right?
Yeah.
Iraq, I think, was 14, something like that, right?
Around that time, yeah.
So, but a year into Ukraine, basically,
yeah,
the United States is seriously asking the question of what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And it took a really long time for people to really ask that question about Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It took a really, really long time. But now people are kind of wising up to this, even here in the United States, even as distracted as we are, even as, overfed and understimulated,
That's true.
Even the issues that we're dealing with here, people are seriously asking the question of why are we at war with Russia? And the argument of democracy is no longer enough.
That's true.
And
there's a concept in political science, just for those who might know. There's one concept called just war.
Okay. War for the sake of war.
Exactly.
More or
That's
less.
why they call it the just war theory.
Absolutely.
So in political science. And there are those who've been saying, whoa, this is just for the sake of just war. Well, there's more than meet the eye for this.
Absolutely.
There's more into this. And that's why we decided to talk about this issue of the UK. It's because how else would you categorize the behavior of the UK? And if you take the similarities between the UK and the US, we do the same thing in Taiwan Strait. Now the UK is doing it on the Black Sea. So this is what we're going to be detailing today.
So
we're going to be talking about.
Yep.
And we're going to get into it, not only about this one, but also the implications of it moving forward. Because from right off the bat, one thing that comes to mind is the statement that I heard yesterday, the President comedian Zelensky said.
Yes, and I have that statement. Do you want to talk about it really quick while I get
Which one? We might be talking about two different things.
The one where he said Ukraine is the only thing that stands in the way of...
No, he said that one. No, that's not the one I'm talking about. The one I'm talking about, it has to do with now he's confirming that Ukraine will be receiving the F-16s by the end of 2023. What does it tell you? What it tells you that it's going to be dragged for longer. It's because by the end of 2023, what are we getting into here in the United States?
Right.
Presidential elections. And no president will want to embark on something like this till we figure out who the president is.
Right.
And that's the reason why I wanted to just mention that one.
Well, so the thing that I am interested in that Zelensky said recently is he did a whole speech about how Ukraine is the only thing that is standing between Russia and the rest of the EU and the rest of Europe. And then the rest of the world, and how, it's Ukrainian troops and Ukrainian tanks and Ukrainian all of this that is standing in the way. It is preventing Russia from occupying the rest of Europe. And I was like, what?
It's nonsense.
That doesn't even make sense.
It's nonsense. Well, again, it confirms the idea that he's not qualified.
He's not.
He doesn't have the proper education for even understanding what international affairs are all about. I'm not putting the guy down. I care less for the guy. He's another human being.
Absolutely.
You respect as a human being.
Yeah.
But will I tell him this to his face? Oh, yes, I will.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Just sit down, man.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Do you understand what the ramifications of your gestures doing to your people first?
Right.
Second, what is doing to your country? And third, what is doing to global security?
Absolutely.
Do you have any idea what a war between Russia and the US will entail?
Right.
And obviously, he's going to be looking at me like, well,
Well,
no,
no.
I am the president. I
Yeah.
know what I'm doing. I said, no,
Yeah.
you don't.
Right.
And this is again where and not just about him, any president, when you
Yeah.
have your entourage with yes, sir, yes, ma'am people, you'll get nowhere.
Right.
You get nowhere. I've always admired people who look at me and said, I disagree with you on this.
Yeah.
You know what? They meant well.
Right.
And you'd rather have people like that.
Absolutely. Well, do you guys want to see this for a second?
Yeah,
You want to
let's-
see
you
him?
know, I'm sure
talk
they
about
do.
this?
I'm sure I want to hear it.
I
Even
mean,
though I read on it, but I want to hear it.
well, it's interesting watching him do it himself.
Yeah.
You know
the
what I
body
mean?
language. Well, that's your area. So
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So
All right, let me pull it up. But it's very interesting that this is now the narrative has to be Ukraine is preventing Russia from occupying the rest
it's
of
like
the
the
EU.
bulwark.
Yeah, like,
Ukraine now is the
what?
savior. Is the savior of Europe, of
Right.
Christianity, of this and that. This is what it's gonna be.
all right. So let's check out Zelensky right here talking about.
Важливо, щоб ніхто в світі не мовчав через те, що боїться цього російського хаосу. Всі дії лідерів зараз можуть бути історичними. Кожне слово журналістів на вагу золота. Треба чітко називати джерело проблеми. Якщо хтось у світі намагається приспати ситуацію, якщо хтось у світі піддається ілюзії, нібито Кремль здатен відновити контроль, то лише відкладає проблему до наступного прориву хаосу ще більш небезпечно. Ми всі знаємо рішення. Перше, світ повинен не боятись. Ми
First, the
знаємо,
world
що
should not be
нас
afraid.
захищає.
We know that only our
Тільки наша
unity
єдність.
protects us.
Україна точно
Ukraine will
зможе захистити
definitely be
Європу
able to
від
protect
будь-яких
Europe
російських сил.
from any
Неважливо,
Russian forces,
хто
and
ними
it doesn't
командує.
matter
Ми
who commands
захистимо.
them. We
Безпека
will
східного
protect the
флангу
security of
Європи
Europe's
тримається
eastern flank,
лише на нашій
depends
обороні.
only on our
Саме тому
defense.
кожен
And
прояв
that's why
підтримки
every
нашої оборони
manifestation.
це
Oh, let's see,
підтримка
sorry.
і вашої оборони
Of-
усіх в вільному світі.
Okay, hold on.
Українські воїни,
Sorry,
українські
guys. He went a little faster than I can go.
і вашої
Okay,
оборони.
For our
усіх
defense, for
в вільному
everyone
світі.
in the free
Українські
world,
воїни,
Ukrainian
українські
soldiers,
гармати,
Ukrainian guns,
українські танки,
Ukrainian
українські
tanks,
ракети. Це
Ukrainian
все те,
missiles
що
are all that
захищає
protect
Європу від
Europe
таких
from
марш-бросків.
such
Як сьогодні
marches
ми
as
бачимо
we
на
see
російській
today on
території, коли
Russian
ми
territory.
звертаємось по
Uh,
F-16
And then we ask you
атакам.
to give us the F-16 fighters.
Yeah. What a farce.
What?
Ukraine tanks and missiles.
First of all,
do
where
they-
did they come from?
Yeah. Did he show the pictures of the Leopard from Germany? The tanks being like
Right.
vaporized. That's what happened. So
Well, and very recently,
yeah.
I think there was a article that came out that 15% of the tanks were actually lost. Like they were destroyed.
Yeah.
And so I think the reality also is that Ukraine isn't doing as well as it's saying it's doing, right?
Well, let alone it was a high-ranking
Mhm.
military here. I forgot his name.
Yeah.
And I read it. He said that, Ukraine is going to take over Crimea by the end of 2023. How
No.
insane.
No, and here's the thing. So it's actually very interesting. So I sort of started digging around.
Yeah.
And so, the Biden administration in April was preparing for Ukraine's counteroffensive to fail. So it's not
Yeah.
even the same. It's not even the narrative of Ukraine's going to win, Ukraine's going to win, Ukraine's going to win. Well, that may be what they're saying at the forefront, but there are
But-
certainly a lot of times where they've understood
Yeah.
that their counteroffensives were probably going to fail.
Yeah. It's no different than what Biden did to his chief diplomat, Secretary Anthony Blinken, when he went
Yeah.
to China on June 17. You know that he was
Mhm.
granted with an audience with President Xi,
Yeah.
Secretary Blinken, that is.
Yeah.
What did Biden say the next day? Xi is a dictator.
Yeah.
So that's undermining
Oh,
your.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I can only think as political analyst, geopolitical analyst, that is, I can only think of two scenarios. Either Biden didn't know what he was saying given his dementia,
Yeah.
or this gives you a real sense of the US has no intentions
Mhm.
of fixing its relations with China. That's the only two options
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's no different, just to tie it to this
Well,
one here. Why?
And I think you're absolutely right. I think it actually could be Biden not knowing what he's
not
saying, because
knowing. Yeah.
that's happened a bunch of times. And a lot of people around the world don't know this, that Biden has said something and the White House press corps
will
has just been
backtrack.
like, no,
He didn't mean
No,
that.
he didn't mean that.
Yeah.
He didn't mean
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, let
Just
alone,
kidding.
let alone the fiasco that happened last week when the Prime Minister of India was here.
Mhm.
You know, they were doing the national anthem. What
Yeah.
did Biden do?
What?
He held his hand here while the Indian national anthem was played.
Wow.
Even Modi, you could see his
Oh.
eyes. His eyes was like,
There's
what's
like,
wrong
what are
with
you
him?
doing? Oh man.
And in another speech, you know how he ended the speech?
Hmm.
God save the Queen.
Oh, this is
It's not a
so
laughing
embarrassing.
matter.
It's so
It's pathetic
embarrassing.
that nobody was able to tell him, sir, you need to retire.
Yeah.
You need to get out of the White House, go enjoy the rest of your life,
Yeah.
whatever years you have, and be in peace.
Yeah.
But they are using him. He's being used.
Yeah.
That tells you how our system is corrupt.
Yeah.
That's another conversation for
Oh
another
my gosh,
day.
but it's so embarrassing.
It is
Like,
embarrassing.
globally, that's so
It
embarrassing.
is embarrassing because we don't have any leadership anymore.
Right.
And now, even with what's coming up for 2024, do you think is there a qualified leader who understands how to amend the relations with other countries?
Yeah.
None.
No.
None. It's the whole, it's fiasco. So to me, it becomes the question, what would you vote for?
And that's a really challenging question
What
right
for?
now.
What
know,
for?
It's actually kind of been a joke. You know, you see those bumper stickers where it's like, nobody 2020, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like nobody 2016, nobody, like, because there's a lot of people who don't want either candidate, quite frankly.
And they don't have a choice.
They have a choice.
So what happened to democracy, which is the hallmark of choice?
No, but that's what we're doing in Russia.
Oh,
is
I didn't realize that.
democracy.
Democracy.
Yeah.
Let alone in Ukraine. Do
Yeah.
you know what the Canadian President Zelensky just did? He banned opposition now from running into elections next year.
Okay.
So what is democracy?
Huge thing that you just brought up. Okay, so you're absolutely right, because the justification that our politicians have given for this conflict is that we are fighting for democracy. And I want to show a clip in a second.
Sure.
Tucker Carlson did a phenomenal job. I'm actually very impressed with what he was able to
give credit
put
where credit is due.
Absolutely, I give credit where credit is due.
Is,
And like I said, I don't agree with Tucker Carlson on everything.
Should we bring him on the show?
Tucker Carlson, if you would like to come on the show,
would you mind?
Absolutely.
We'd love to have you here, man.
So, but what our politicians have said specifically, that we are doing this for democracy. Is it an actual democracy? Because actually, from the beginning, this isn't just new, but from the beginning, Ukraine banned political parties that had ties to Russia, which in a wartime situation, I understand. However, does that undermine democracy? Absolutely, it does.
Let alone what they just did recently.
Yes, please go into that really quickly while I tee up
that
this
one
video.
Has to do with Ukraine banning any Russian books on Ukraine territory, which shows you right there how pathetic.
Right. Don't ban books. United States don't ban books either.
Well, heck, you know what we did? I think the UK, some Western country, don't quote me on this because I don't remember. One of them banned the play of some sort of a Russian play into classical music or whatever. You believe that?
Ban books.
You believe
Don't ban plays, guys.
Yeah, it's because they want brainwash the populations. That's the reason why they don't.
Well,
so this is what concerns me the most about our neighboring to the north.
You are absolutely
What are
right.
they doing?
Well, so let's look at this really quickly, because Tucker Carlson did a good job putting this together. Well, let's see if it'll play.
Yeah, if he is hearing us, I'd like to have him.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson, come on over. We think some of the stuff you say is really smart. Well, let's see if it's going to play. But you're absolutely right. If what we're fighting for is democracy, how often does the U.S. actually hold to that? How many countries do we have dealings with where we don't attack them and they are not democracies?
Yeah, because it serves our interest.
Absolutely. All right, sorry guys, let me refresh Tucker Carlson here.
If not, we'll get back to it. So
absolutely,
let's as I said earlier, this is what concerns me the most about our neighboring to the north.
Yeah,
you know what's going to be happening to Canada? It's going to be isolated.
Absolutely.
That means Canadians who created content like ours won't be able to say. So Canadians will
Yeah.
not know, except the narrative that is approved by the Prime
Right.
Minister dictator Trudeau.
Right.
That's all it's going to be.
And here's the deal. We're not used to that here.
No.
Because I'm going to go ahead and call out China for this. China is not exactly great at journalistic freedom.
Yeah, but
You
at
are
the
not allowed
yeah,
to
but at the same, their
say-
system has been that way. So
Sure.
again, I disagree with you on something.
Yeah.
I am not favoring China.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is people know where they stand. They
Right.
know where the system is.
Right.
At least in the case of China, he's not saying we are a free society,
Right.
but we're limiting the speech.
right.
You know, head on.
You know, it's not a free
where the
society.
government
Yeah,
where the
yeah.
government stands.
Absolutely.
Straightforward.
Absolutely.
You know, I look at it the way when they conduct their the yearly meeting for the political party, all of
Mhm.
them with all the members, whatever.
Yeah.
Did you know that everything is put on the table right there on the meeting?
Yeah.
If you have any grievances, you disclose them right
Mhm.
there in the meeting. Once you leave the meeting, you're done.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean it'll be heard
Yeah.
or, done
Yeah.
anything about. And I do respect that because so I don't particularly agree with that. However, I'm also clear it is not my job to tell somebody else how to live.
How to?
If
Yes.
that is
Yeah.
something that works for them, great.
That's true.
I personally don't want it here because we are the land of the free.
So-called. the free-
So-called
called the free.
freedom.
Yeah.
And, quite frankly, I appreciate being able to do our show. I do actually appreciate that in the world that we live in as
Yeah.
of this moment, censorship is real.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there's a lot we can't say. So I don't appreciate
Yeah.
that. But I do appreciate that to some large extent, we can actually say some of the things, not all, but
Yeah.
some of the things that we want to. And there are other places where that's not possible. But you are absolutely right. If that is freedom is what we have, you cannot go in and say, okay, well, just kidding, you don't actually have freedom.
Yeah.
You can't say this. Exactly like what you're talking about.
Well, that's
in
exactly what we're doing
Canada.
right now. We're chipping at it here, little by little.
Right.
Since when you will have, for example, a setting like this will ban you from if you say something? Since when it was sort of
Yeah.
you will be censored, you will be sort of canceled if you criticize the government.
Right.
Since when it was the case? If we are to say, we live in a free society per se, where you are under the Constitution
Mhm.
allowed to criticize the government.
Right.
If the government is not doing right,
right.
well, the government is not doing right. You look
Right.
at it just with our taxes, where the tax money is spent.
Well,
at
in
the
some
expen-
cases, like
Huh?
the Pentagon, we don't know where it's going.
Yeah, they said they just realized that $6.5 billion is missing.
Yeah.
The Pentagon just realized that. That's what
well,
they said.
oh man.
Yeah,
just,
something.
6
So-
points.
So it gives you an
$1 billion.
idea. It just gives you an idea that, this illusion, Americans are not awake. That's the truth to it. I mean, you look how we sell. I'm an American. Don't
yes.
get me wrong. I will defend my country here by any
Right.
means.
Me too.
you know,
Me too.
But when a government does wrong,
Mhm.
you got to call it out.
Well, and isn't it also defense of your country that if it does wrong to the extent that it damages your reputation on the global stage and it damages the way that you have basically your quality of life?
Yeah.
Because as we're seeing happen in the United States right now, our quality of life is declining
It is going.
substantially.
Yeah.
Not only that, our position on the global stage. And David, you brought this up, and I think that when you said it, it just snapped for me that I absolutely think you're right. This Ukraine situation pushed things too far for
Far,
the United
yeah.
States. That this democracy plight that the US embarked on really put us over the edge
Yeah.
globally.
And that's because you're seeing now the loss of
Yeah.
the financial hegemony. That is where one of the concerns.
right.
Do you know that Africa is about to launch its own currency?
Because it
Because of
can
that.
now. Yes.
Exactly. And they are saying
Yeah.
that forget about IMF, forget about World Bank,
Right.
because their intentions was
Yeah.
and is, and it will always be to
Mhm.
keep countries in debt.
Right.
That is the reason.
And the
for
thing
it.
is, people wised up to that. You have enough decades of people doing that, of the IMF doing that, of the United States doing
Yeah.
it. You have enough decades of that happening, and people wise up.
Well, that's how we control the
and the
world.
moment they see weakness,
Yeah.
they jump on it.
As a matter of fact, that was the whole reason. I should have picked it up somewhere. I read about how we sunk
Yeah.
the Japanese economy
Yeah.
by design. By
Yes.
design, because Japan at that time in the 80s, it was
Mhm.
moving up very,
Right.
very, very fast.
Right.
We sunk it.
Princes
by
of the
value.
Yen
Yeah.
by Richard Werner, Professor
Yeah.
Richard Werner. He
Oh, yeah,
also
yeah.
he also talks about that what happened with the Japanese economy was absolutely not an accident. It was absolutely on purpose. And to speak to what you just
Yeah.
said, a lot of that we're seeing happen
Right
here.
here. Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that mean, and I don't know the answer to this, I am not an economist, and if you guys have an economist recommendation that can speak to this, let them know about us, send them our way, we'll interview them. But is that what's happening here? Because you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We have tons of evidence that the Japanese economy was sunk on purpose.
On purpose. Yeah.
Doing similar things
Mm.
to what's happening right now. Is that on purpose here too?
Yeah, and this is why I was convinced way back. Actually, when I say way back, I'm referring to probably around 2004. I was still in Washington at the
Mhm.
time, and I start to think about where things are headed between the
Yeah.
United States and China,
Yeah.
because I was keeping track on all this, because that's part of my academic background and all that. And it became more evident to me after the financial crisis in 2008 that China's gonna wanna sort of get away a little bit from the path where things
Yeah.
are. What do I mean by this? It's referring to the idea of with the trade, with the financial loans and so forth, that
Uh-huh.
we always went to China and ask for money.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
but from that time forward, China started to think in terms of, okay, this can be sustained forever.
Yeah.
It's not about them giving us a loan. It's about the how the U.S. economy is going to be. One day it's going to crash at some
Right.
point. You can't
Right.
sustain this on debt. And right there, it started to become clear to me that most likely one of the policies we're going to embark on, because it's in our toolbox, we've done it before, is containment.
Yeah.
Okay. In 2011, I think I went to Thailand. Somewhere around that time,
Uh-huh.
I went to Thailand, then I went to Cambodia.
Yeah.
So I was in Phnom Penh, spent some time there, and I talked to people there. Of course, you kind of, and there were some Chinese there, believe it or not. I met them at the International Club, Press Club.
Uh-huh.
It was an international, I'm sorry, the International Correspondent Club.
Got it.
That's what
Got
it was.
it.
So, and it was just the idea that we're just conversing, talking and all
Yeah.
that. And it became clear to me that this containment policy, it's not going to succeed.
Yeah.
And the reason why we wanted to get into that, because we saw the signs of the Chinese economy is going to surpass the US.
Yeah.
And we wanted to slow down. And one of the tools we're doing is creating conflicts.
Yeah.
Because we want to slow down that. It's not going to work this time around with China, because
No.
the size of a Chinese economy, if you compare this to Japan,
It's
yeah.
not even comparable.
Yeah.
Absolutely not
That
even
is
comparable.
that is why we're going to see the containment is not going to succeed.
Well, and it's interesting because how could we contain an economy? Basically, most of our stuff comes from China, and I think that's the biggest argument right now. Is
Yeah.
like, there was the decoupling, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Then we had now it's like de-risking.
Change it.
But the reality is, how do we decouple? How is it possible to decouple from China? And right now, the United States has painted itself into a position where it can't.
No.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
This is what maybe bothers me the most about this is, do you remember how many people at the time that this was happening were saying, don't offshore these things. Don't send these jobs overseas. Don't send manufacturing overseas. This is what's going to happen. I remember being I remember being a teenager and hearing people say, do not offshore manufacturing. Don't offshore it. Don't offshore it. Don't offshore it. What did we do? We offshored it for profit.
Yeah.
because it maximizes profit. It maximizes the amount of stuff we can have here in the United States if it's cheaper. But it's like selling your future for your present. It's like selling your future for, some junk that you buy right now
Yeah.
that's like cheap stuff.
Well, it became the cost. It becomes just like when we go shopping. If I go, for example, to buy something, I do. There's something called in economists will speak to this far better than I do. It's consumer behavior.
Right.
The first thing for me as an average citizen, I will think in terms of price.
Right.
That just
Absolutely.
do I buy thing for $100 or do I buy it for $10?
Right.
Yeah, quality matters.
Right.
But also affordability matters.
Absolutely.
I'm somebody who does not leave. I don't live beyond my means.
Right.
That it's a rule for me.
Right.
Because I know what a debt will do.
Have you looked at our economy?
Well, yeah.
Lately,
And this is what most Americans do not understand. And
Right.
you wish with what we're doing, the whole idea is to wake them up.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know whether they will wake up or not. I don't know.
So bringing it back to Tucker Carlson's
Yeah.
speech. I mean, I want to actually give him the props, right?
Of course.
Of being willing to address the reality of this situation, because I think that what you're saying right now is that wake up moment. Because this is not a conflict that I personally feel, is in my opinion, this is not a conflict that I feel that people will allow to go on for 20 years.
Yeah.
I just don't think that that's
it
doable,
doesn't serve
right?
our interest to begin with. Why are
No.
we getting into conflicts to begin with?
Well,
That's the whole idea of it.
It's because of democracy, David.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
freedom.
all right, I got this loaded up. Let's see if we can hear how much democracy we really have.
Many times we're focused on what we can do to support Ukraine's effort to fight for their democracy.
Democracy must prevail. The Ukrainian people are fighting the fight for their democracy, and in doing so, for ours as well.
Assisting and helping
Wait,
Ukraine.
how?
I know.
Literally, how
Yeah.
does their democracy affect our
Ours, yeah.
democracy? How?
It's a bravado. Average Joe, average Jane does not understand these dynamics. Like I always say,
Right.
here in the US, average Joe, I bet you if we go outside right now, we go downtown and ask people,
Yeah.
what they're going to be thinking about. Do I have something to eat for dinner or not?
Right.
They're
Can
not
I
gonna-
pay for X,
Yeah,
Y, Z?
they're not going to
Absolutely.
be. They're not going to. Because you look at it right now, and I just looked at the stats last week, 60% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh my gosh.
I know Ross
yeah,
always talks about
yeah,
this one, and he was
yeah.
right. 60%.
Yeah.
Then I looked also another stat pertaining to poverty. Poverty in America went up by 23%.
That is
23%.
horrible.
Do we hear about it?
No.
No.
Oh
we
my
don't.
God.
We don't.
23%.
We don't. And I
That leaves me shook.
yeah. And before I always say something, as
Yeah.
always, I check my
Yeah.
things. My credibility
Oh
in
my
line. My
God.
name is in line.
Yeah.
I won't say something just like this. 23%.
That gives me the
I know.
chills.
Well, I
That's
saw the pictures.
awful.
I saw the images in San Francisco.
Yeah.
You just won't believe.
Well, the thing
we
is-
don't see that.
I mean, I lived in Los Angeles
Yeah.
for a while, and I can tell you I did see that everywhere. It
Yeah.
was so bad, but I understand it's worse now.
It's
But even in regular, in normal US cities,
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting
It's-
so much worse.
And yet you will think common sense, whomever is advising the president. But
Mhm.
this is where we have, amateurs. We have yes sir, yes ma'am people.
Yeah.
To me, I call them people with no courage.
Right.
They couldn't take a damn stand and say to the president, sir, you need to focus on building the US right here.
Right.
Why sending the billions over when our infrastructure is crumbling before our own eyes?
Right.
When education system is going down,
Yeah.
kids are not learning anything in school.
Yeah.
When the healthcare system is it's nothing but a transaction.
Yeah.
They don't care what's going on with just do whatever.
Yeah.
When the food people consuming here have no idea what are they consuming.
Yeah.
The tap water they drink is
Yeah.
as contaminated as it can be.
Yeah.
And yet we go in and send in billions because there's no somebody with the moral courage to say to the president, sir, this is what's needed.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize the system is
Yeah.
corrupted to its core.
Yeah.
To say, well, we can just change policy here and there, it won't fix it.
Right.
It's the system that has to be reviewed top to bottom,
Right.
changed completely.
Right.
And I don't see if the current generation is equipped with that kind of moral courage to do so. I just don't see that.
Well, and we're watching
Sadly.
it. We're watching it not happen. But the problem is, it's interesting because people will wake up to things as things get bad enough.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, by that point, it's too
Too late.
late.
Yeah.
It's too late. And so I really hope, you're right. I hope people wake up, because it's getting worse and worse and worse. And for Janet Yellen to come out and basically say, yes, the world is de-dollarizing, people don't understand the problem that is,
yeah.
right? How, if the world de-dollarizes, how do we pay back our debts? We don't have gold to support our currency.
No.
How do we pay back our debts? And how is the question that I feel that politicians answer the least. How are we going to actually do something?
That tells
Right?
you there is no plan in place.
There's
no plan.
no plan and no political will
Yeah,
either
they won't.
to
They won't do
actually
it.
fix anything, because it's nice words.
Yeah.
But until somebody can say, this is how I plan to do something, I don't buy it.
And even the person who might want even have a good intentions in doing that, the system won't allow it.
Right.
You look at just now with this Ukraine thing. So.
Yeah.
Let me get on here because I need to share one picture.
Okay.
Well, actually, a few pictures about our topic.
All
You know, we
right.
didn't forget it.
We actually have a video also of the actual jets. So this is very interesting. Did you see this video, David?
No, the one I
right.
saw is I picked up.
After you show the pictures,
okay,
I will
let
show.
me do that first, and just at least for our viewers to know what are we talking about here. So the two Russian Su-27, and I want to provide a picture of the Su-27.
So this is what I actually think is very
Here
interesting.
is the one. This is an Su-27. Those are fighter jets. Those
Yes.
are Russians. So there are two of those planes intercepted 3 British fighter jets, and the fighter jets are
here. Let me show this
hold
video.
on a second.
Okay,
Hold on a second.
go
please.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Those are the Typhoon. That's the British model. So the reason why they're using the Typhoon is because they all have to be standardized based on NATO. That's why when you become a member of NATO, your military hardware will have to meet the standards of NATO. This is why tensions arose between Turkey, a NATO member, and the rest of NATO command, is because Turkey went ahead and purchased the S-400 missile system. That S-400 missile system is not compatible with the standard of NATO, because the S-400 system has an advantage.
Okay.
It can detect through its radars all the other jets of NATO.
Wow.
So NATO and Turkey butted head, but Turkey didn't back down.
Yeah.
They said, we're moving forward whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it was a conversation over even sort of considering purchasing some fighter jets from Russia.
That's wild, isn't it?
Big, very big.
Yeah, that's big.
Because it's going to make the changes within. This is why the Typhoon, funny, why, again, I find it funny, is they sent the Typhoon, but not the Rafales from France.
That's interesting. What do you make of that?
Well, it's because this is NATO. This is a UK provocation.
Yeah.
Now, did NATO give the okay for it? Did the US give the okay with it?
Probably,
I'm sure.
yes, I'm sure.
One thing is certain, knowing what I know, UK will not be able to do anything without the approval of the US.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, these tensions that just existed in Russia with the Wagner thing, MI6 and the CIA coordinations from behind the scenes.
Well, so it's interesting actually that you brought that up, because it's very strange
Yeah.
to me that the United, I mean, I was sitting and thinking about this and I was like, you know, the United States said they knew ahead of time, right? The CIA said they knew
always
ahead
say
of
that.
time, okay?
Yeah.
And they decided not to say anything because they might get labeled like, oh, you know, we did that, whatever, right? They might get blamed. Here's the thing. If somebody comes out and warns you about something,
Yeah.
that's not the person who gets blamed for it, right?
Uh-huh.
That just isn't how that works. And so I was like, that's a logical misstep in my opinion.
That's true. And this is why the UK
Mhm.
will not be able to do anything on its own. UK will have to, as a matter of fact, most of the NATO countries
Yeah.
is the US that decides because
Yeah.
we control the budget. That is the reason why you're seeing what you're seeing for that.
So on the fighter jet, David,
Yeah.
if you wanna I have the video.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's see that one.
So-
let me remove that one here.
Here's what's interesting about this video specifically is
Yeah.
first of all, it came from the Russian embassy in UK. So I'm what you guys have on screen right now is the Russian embassy in London's Twitter feed. Okay.
Wow.
So this is their this is one of the most interesting parts of this conflict also is that people are releasing videos. You know, we had from the Navy, remember when the Chinese
Yeah, I
vessel
remember
did
that
those
one.
maneuvers very recently, the Navy released a video. And here, Russia, the Russian embassy in UK has this video. And this is hypothetically of this event happening. So this is the Russian jets basically escorting the and you can see on the side right here.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can pause it. Where they show the side here. You can see Royal Air Force on the side of this plane.
Yeah.
It's small, obviously, but you can see it. And so it's interesting to start watching these events get called out publicly, and not just called out publicly, but with videos and
To prove it.
to prove it.
Yeah.
So not even just photos, but actual videos to
Yeah.
prove that these things are real and happening.
Well, it's like, you know, especially for us in the West, we're not going to admit to something like this, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked the question earlier. You know, what else would you call it if it's not a provocation? Why are you going over to the
Yeah.
Black Sea? And by the way, we got to call it the way it is. The UK fighter jets
Yeah.
did not cross into Russian airspace.
Absolutely.
That's
they did
what-
not. Yes.
And Russia admit to that.
yes.
They said, the Russians said, the fighter jets, the UK did not
yes.
cross. It was just the fact that what just took place with the Wagner, all of a sudden the next day or the next 2 days,
Yeah.
you are sending, you know, there's that freedom of navigation for the the aircraft carrier, or the freedom of flying in airspace, whatever. It's the perception of it.
Right.
It's the perception. Is this the right time to be doing something like this?
Right.
Is this the right time to escalate? You know,
Right.
Russians not gonna tolerate, because they are very wary about their security, because
Yeah.
that's how their history has been.
Right.
Russia has always been in sort of there is this internal fighting
Mhm.
that have been throughout the centuries,
Yeah.
and mainly was tied to the security issue.
Yeah.
So it's almost became part of their psychic. That's what it's a large, big landmass and so forth. And this is why to them, a behavior like this will only be a red flag.
Right.
And I do believe if they feel threatened, they will react.
Yeah.
And they're not going to react with a missile here. We all know what it means.
Well, and I actively don't want them to react.
I hope not.
Do you know what I mean?
I hope not. And this is where, again, you fall about, just to go back to our point about how, for example, MI6 and CIA, that this is not the norm. It goes way back to after World War II. That's where the coordination has been, especially in 1953
Mhm.
with the assassination of Mohammad Mossadegh. That's how we took over that. It was the MI6, it was the CIA involved together. And this also makes you wonder about what just happened with the Wagner Group. As a matter of fact, I have a picture. I'm going to share it here. And I'll tell you who this guy is.
All right.
Let me show this one here.
Oh,
go.
that's very serious
Now-
looking.
Now,
Very serious looking man.
This individual is a general. He is a general by the name. Let me get his name here. Yeah, Survikin.
Yeah.
Survikin was the head of the was formerly the highest commander of Russian forces in Ukraine, and they are now leaked info.
Yeah.
Again, just pay attention, guys. It's leaked info.
Leaked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, leaked info said that he was aware of this, and this according to whom? According to New York Times.
New York Times is
Then
leaking
you're
a lot
gonna
of
have
stuff.
to ask yourself,
Uh-huh.
should you trust the New York Times? You know, that just like I put a tweet on it. It's on Twitter there. I put one and I said, are you really going to trust the New York Times?
Yeah.
So again, it just bringing the point over to highlight the idea of when you mentioned about the UK going to do this, they're not going to do it on the whim of their whims or their will, whatever.
Right.
Let alone there is another big issue for UK itself, their economy. Did you know that inflation, as a matter of fact, and again, I'm going to share this. I'm going to pull it up here if I could to highlight to you. And I got it from England, from London. So food prices are up at least 20%. And you know who sent me this one here? It's Jack Rabbit.
Oh, hey.
Someone I trust.
Yeah.
Jack Rabbit's been with us for a while.
Yeah.
You know, he's on the ground. He lives there.
Yeah.
You know, he said food prices are up at least 20 to 25%.
Right.
But more like 33% on smaller items. My regular food bill, no alcohol, 4 people household is gone up by about £105.
Wow.
That's the equivalency of what? $130,
Yeah.
$140, something
Yeah.
like that per week. Okay, an increase of 23.8%. Energy is lower as summer, but UK energy prices are highest in Europe.
Yeah.
So, and here is why am I just bringing this up? Why am I bringing this up? For UK to be doing this, creating this provocation, for the Prime Minister Clown Sunak to be going to Ukraine, pledging millions of pounds, while at the same time the inflation is showing no signs of letting up.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it became clear that the economy, and not just based on this inflation by itself, that the economy of England is faltering.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I feel comfortable saying, I'm not an economist, but I know basics of 101 economics. The UK economy is on the verge of recession.
Yeah.
This is no different than Australia or even here in the US. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
We just don't say it much.
Right.
This is why the Federal Reserves right here, they are not contemplating. As a matter of fact, what's his name? Jerome Powell.
Yeah.
It's not contemplating. He is going to increase interest rate.
Yeah.
And the UK central bank just increased it by 5%. Did you know what was their interest rate back in 2021? The end of 2021?
What was it?
0.8.
Wow.
0.8.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're raising it to 5?
Well, they don't have a choice. Well, although there is a lot of indication that raising interest rates does not quelch inflation.
Okay.
So, because Professor Richard Werner, guys, if you have not heard of him,
Yeah,
very interesting man.
Smart guy.
And
Smart guy.
he talks a lot actually about this, and a lot of very intelligent economists are actually talking about the fact that those two things cannot. So that is actually not what is able to quelch inflation.
Yeah.
So read a little bit more into that if you're interested in it. But you're absolutely right. That for them to raise it that much,
it's too much.
It's
crazy. Too much. You know, let alone this coming in a time where you, as a head of a government, in this case, the Prime Minister Clown Sunak, prioritizing Ukraine over the British people. That's just because some people are going hungry inside England.
Absolutely.
It's kind of madness.
Right.
You say to yourself, where are the priorities of these people?
Absolutely.
You vote
That's a
for
great
the
question.
yeah. Where are the priorities?
Yeah.
Unless they are being directed.
Well, by the same people whose priorities seem to be not us, if I'm being quite honest, because we have the same situation here, right?
Yeah.
So in a situation where we have a debt ceiling problem,
Yeah.
okay, the amount that it takes to service our debt is billions of dollars.
Do you want me to tell you the figures?
Yeah, please.
You want to
If
know the
have them,
figures?
yeah.
You know how much we pay for interest just on that?
Interest, just on interest is billions.
About 870. That's the last figure I saw.
Yeah. 870 billion.
$billion.
Yeah. So, and that's
Just on interest.
just on interest
Yes.
alone on
Yeah.
that debt. And so it's very, it's kind of crazy if you look at the war that's fought over democracy.
Yeah.
Okay. Which doesn't make any sense because the argument seems to be over and over again
Yeah.
that unless we fight for democracy in Ukraine, we don't have democracy here in the United States. That doesn't
make sense.
any
Yeah.
sense at all.
Yeah.
Why are those two things connected? What happens in Ukraine is not directly related their democracy, which arguably right now may not actually even be a democracy, because if the parties are suspended,
yeah.
is that a democracy?
Well, it was never a democracy after they rejected the choice of the people back in 2014.
Right.
It's the whole.
So
democracy is gone.
arguably, is
I
it
see
even
what you
a
mean. I see
democracy,
what you mean.
right? So
Yeah.
there, I think there's an argument for
Yeah.
maybe it's not.
Yeah.
And so you're looking at that situation and you're looking at the debt ceiling here. You're looking at how much money it costs to service the debt here.
Yeah.
It seems crazy to me that any money would be going to democracy in Ukraine.
Well, you look at it in Germany also. Germans now, as a matter of fact, again, we don't hear much about it.
Yeah.
Besides what I mentioned yesterday about the Rammstein demonstrations and so forth, there are now calls inside Germany
to stop this.
To settle
Yeah.
the Ukraine-Russia conflict inside Germany.
Yeah.
We don't hear much about it.
No, we don't.
So the idea of this inflation, just to go back quickly, what I'm thinking about it for the UK, and you said to yourself, oh, the priorities for allocating millions and millions of pounds at the expense of the people.
Yeah.
You look at even some other countries are dealing with the same, Australia, Canada. And to my surprise, you know what other countries dealing with this the same? Is Singapore.
Yeah.
I was shocked because their inflation is showing no signs of abating either.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it starts to dawn on you as to what are those leaders thinking? What are they thinking? Unless, as I said earlier, this is pre-planned, pre-organized, and directed by some entities for one objective and one objective only is to go with what they are. Because now I'm starting to see two things are converging on the same.
Yeah.
Is the World Economic Forum reset and the Great Reset.
Right.
They are both converging on one thing. And that one thing is one government world domination.
Yep.
Because it has two objectives. The two objectives are population reduction.
Yep.
And second one is digitizing everything, including human brain.
Yep.
That's how I see it. Later along, for us here in the US, on July 24th, central bank is going to introduce CBDC.
Which, by the way, very, very few people in the United States want. So they polled people.
That's true.
And I think it was something close to 80% of people do not want a central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
Because, there's a whole talk, and this got scrapped because people were understandably very upset about this, where basically if you had a Venmo transaction that was over, I think $500 or $600, the government wanted to know what that was for.
It's not their damn business.
Also, homie, you guys don't know where trillions of
Of
dollars
dollars.
went
And they want to know
for the
about
Pentagon, and they want to know where
about
your
$500.
$600,
You're right.
$500
You're right.
went to, you know,
You're
pay your
right.
friend for whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's this unreasonable amount of control, and I think that people are starting to kind of wake up a little bit to it
Yeah.
because the fact that most people don't want a central bank digital currency. Because, you know, so there's an interesting argument that I had with my now fiance, because we got engaged this weekend. If you guys do not know, I wanted to share that with you guys because you guys are a family too. So the conversation that we've had more than once has been about, why is a one world government so bad? Here's what's so bad about it. Collectively, the countries, there are so many differences in the ways that countries are run.
Uh-huh.
Some of them are democracies. Some of them are dictatorships. Some of them are tribalist. So there's different ways that cultures have evolved in terms of their structure, their governmental structure. What type of structure allows for the same level of law for everyone? On top of who actually has control of the entire world then? Is it the people who have done so well with our country?
Yeah.
Is it the people who have done so well in the Western world? Is it the World Economic Forum? Is it Bill Gates? Who actually runs that one world government? Because we think, oh, you know, actually it's really great to have unity, because it is really great to have unity. It is really great to not have wars and all of that stuff. But who's going to actually run that government? Because you can't separate a government from people.
So hold on. When you say unity, what are you referring to here?
So the idea that there are different, you know, types of people or countries or whatever, to an extent, that's true.
Okay.
Because we have different cultures. Right.
And you want them to be that way.
We want them to be that way.
Yeah.
That keep your culture. Obviously expand your mind and learn about other cultures, but honor your culture. A lot of people love honoring their culture, right?
Yeah.
So I'm half Polish.
Yeah.
So half of my family is in Poland, lives in Poland, from Poland, and I'm half American. And so I honor and love both cultures that I came from.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's phenomenal. I don't want them to be obliterated into one mishmash culture. No.
Okay. I thought I misunderstood. I think I misunderstood. I was thinking when you mentioned unity, we want the whole world system to be.
Because that's what I'm saying doesn't work.
Yeah. And it won't work anyway.
There is no one world system where you don't have to oppress people to get them to adopt the system you want.
And that is one of the, and it's not one of, among many other errors we've been making, is imposing our will on other countries.
Absolutely.
It won't work, because if so-called democracy works here, which you and I know it doesn't, it's not, for example, might not work for some countries in the Middle East, might not work for some countries in Asia.
Did it work for Afghanistan when we brought them democracy? Did it work for Iraq when we brought them democracy?
No.
Because not only that, we didn't even implement it. Like, that's not even what happened. And so, you know, the issue with and that's not just democracy.
Yeah.
China, if China were to impose the way that it rules its country on, let's say, the United States or the Western world, that would go just as badly.
Which they won't do.
I hope not.
I think they won't. Because
I hope you're right.
That will be a problematic.
Yes.
But they don't strike me as an objective to really change a society or take over a society and have it sort of bow to the laws and regulations of the Chinese of the mainland China. I just don't see them doing that.
Well, I hope that you're right. But looking at a one world government, whose type of government is the one that's imposed on everybody?
That is true. That's why it won't work.
Insanity.
It won't work. But the objective of it all will be into that direction. And this is why, just to go back to the British maneuvers on the Black Sea, it just makes you take a step back and think in terms of how did the idea was conceived to begin with.
Yeah.
Knowing that the Black Sea, that's the whole reason why Crimea is part of Russia.
Yeah.
Because it's accessed the Black Sea from there, and it's security reasons for Russia. Yeah. And as I said earlier, Russia will not tolerate if its security starts to be threatened.
Yeah.
So it begs the question, why this particular maneuver was ordered.
Right.
And if it is, then who ordered it?
Right.
Was it the UK military Ministry of Defense, which I don't see them doing that without the approval of the US?
Yeah.
Was it the US? And if it's the US, who was in the US? I'm sure
Right.
President Biden wasn't even aware of what was
I'm
going
sure.
on. There is no way. So was it a unilateral decision inside the Pentagon?
Yeah.
Was it unilateral decision among defense contractors?
You know what, David? You're
Yeah.
actually bringing up a very good point.
Yeah.
Who's calling the shots?
It's not the government for sure.
No, that's
Yeah.
exactly what that. You know what, David?
Yeah.
That is the question. Who's calling the shots
Well,
here?
that one's gonna be.
Did we elect who's calling the shots
No,
here?
we didn't. We didn't.
Do we even know
There are about
who
si-
they
there are
are?
about 600 people. So
But right?
yes,
Do you see what I'm saying?
I see your
Who
point.
is actually calling these shots?
I see your point. Yeah. No, they are not the official ones that you and I see on TV or being
Right.
elected or whatever. No.
And if
No.
that's the case,
Yeah. And it
do
is the
we
case.
not have a right to know who's making these choices?
And that brings the question forth. Democracy. Where is democracy if you couldn't challenge the government as far as its policies and say, hey, what you are embarking on is a failure that has nothing to do with my interest, first of all,
Yeah.
and is pushing us over a cliff for some dangerous territories that
Yeah.
there is no going back from.
And there's
If we
no
ever get there.
benefit to.
No.
So and like I said, I'm going to bring up Tucker Carlson again because
Yeah.
credit where credit
No,
is due.
Indeed.
What is the benefit for this? And David, you actually brought this up on another show, and that is because I've heard this floating around. So I don't know about this,
Mhm.
but I've heard this floating around, and that is that Russia is very resource rich. And
Very.
yes.
I'm going to share something with you here.
Okay.
It's not classified, of course. A couple years ago, I was invited to give a presentation in front of military
Uh-huh.
delegations without disclosing the location and all that.
Yeah.
So when I went in, there was a ranking officer. I didn't see because I was on stage and
Yeah.
they're far out. I couldn't tell from that distance the ranks, whatever.
Yeah.
But the normal is always high-ranking officer sits in front.
Yeah.
I was in the military, so we kind of know how it works. But I didn't pay attention. I didn't care, literally. I just
Yeah.
want there to give the talk, answer questions, and get out.
Yeah.
Simple as it is. So at the end of the talk, the front row all convened in front of the stage. You're on
Uh-huh.
stage up. So I went to the edge of the stage
Yeah.
and kind of start to talk till I see there's a one-star general.
Mhm.
He was among the front row there,
Yeah.
sitting there. So, and he approached me and said, "Thank you very much, sir, for your insightful tenor." I said, "You're
Yeah.
welcome, sir." I said, I hear an accent.
Yeah.
Are we talking to a British here?"
Yeah.
And he said, "You're absolutely correct, sir." And I said,
Yeah.
"Well, what does a British doing here?"
Yeah.
Jokingly.
Yeah.
And I was just joking.
Yeah,
I
of
usually
course.
don't want to get in because
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know the people. So,
Yeah.
but to me, while I was joking, my brain was processing that so fast.
Yeah.
First of all, what a NATO general doing here? And second, did this NATO general showed up just because of the topic
Yeah.
that I was about to give?
Yeah.
So usually back then in my days in DC, we will be known to the Ministry of Defense, to
Yeah.
MI6, to
Yeah.
whatever. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And after the talk, he asked me a question. As a matter of fact, all the other colonels,
Yeah.
they all came up on stage. I was in the middle and
Yeah.
surrounded by, they were asking me questions. And one of the questions was, will the access to the resources that you mentioned trigger a war?
Oh, wow. And what did you say?
Well, what I said, well, first of all, only if you are deployed.
Yeah.
Well, why did I say that? I said this intentionally. I'll admit
Yeah.
it. It's because I wanted to find out, did they attend the talk, the presentation, because they were about to be deployed into the Arctic?
Yeah.
And it turns out it was.
That's very
So my
interesting.
information for them was a light bulb.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We're dealing with $35 trillion worth of untapped natural resources.
Yeah.
I see, you're absolutely correct. And I showed them a picture of the Russian flag, titanium flag, fixed on the bottom ocean of the Pacific Ocean right there in the Arctic.
Yeah.
In the Arctic, rather, I'm sorry. In the Arctic. Right at the bottom, the Russian flag.
Yep.
So, which means what? All that territory there, because that's where that wealth is. And that explains why in 2007, as a matter of fact, even before that, but it was classified at that time, that the Russians start disclosing about their military base in the Arctic called Grover.
Yeah.
I saw it, not physically, but I did see state of the art as far as technology and what is surrounded with.
Yeah. What is it surrounded with?
Missiles.
Wow. To defend it, I assume.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But also to highlight, because that
Yeah.
is a geopolitical arena now where you could see, but Russia already did.
Huge.
And guess who came in support of Russia financially for that?
China.
China. But China also had a reason.
So, okay. So this is a topic I have been chomping at the bit to do.
Yeah.
And that
maybe we do a live stream on it.
Maybe we do, because this is critically important. And that is right now, there is a fight between the United States and China over Greenland. And here's why. As the sea ice is melting, we now have trade routes. We now have access to natural resources.
Exactly.
To the tune of so much money.
Yeah.
That whoever wins that race is likely to remain the hegemon, whether it's China or the United States, because it's so much natural resources and it's so much money.
Yeah, and Greenland is known for that. So
and so, but this is the Arctic talk, basically.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why China gets involved. And again, I'm aware of this information because the research that I did for the book, and I detailed all this with the references, with where I get the info from. Those are from some databases and so forth. That's where.
Let's see if I can.
So that's where I did that one.
Is this on camera, guys? Yes, more or less. Here it is. Yes. So this is the book that that David wrote.
Yeah, and I disclosed this about the Arctic. So China went ahead and pumped serious amount of money. There is a reason for that. One thing about the Arctic, we still have time, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Let's do it.
Good.
Let's do it.
Well, because we always want to have the attention of our viewers.
Yes.
You know?
Guys, let us know in the chat if
I don't like to just talk.
in it with us.
I don't like just to talk.
Yes.
If there is nothing of substance,
no,
I get out.
David, this is, I feel like, maybe the most critical conversation that isn't being had. Because, you know, there's always, when we're fighting for democracy, there's always an actual other reason that we're doing it. And in the case of Iraq, Afghanistan, and, you know, basically what we've done before, we find that out years later. What if it doesn't take 20 years
to find
out why we did it?
That's true.
What if that's something we could know now?
Yeah. And that was the reason for Afghanistan. And the reason why we went to Afghanistan, besides terrorism and all that?
Yeah.
Access to rare earth mineral. Yeah. Afghanistan has some really, really exotic rare earth elements.
But does that surprise anybody?
Yeah. Well, at that time, most Americans didn't know.
I think most actually people in the world don't understand where their stuff comes from. You know, we get the stuff in boxes.
Yeah.
We get them from the store, or
That's
Amazon
true.
delivers them. Where does this get made?
Yeah. Or this one right here.
You know, this came,
or
this came from the ground.
The rare earth elements involved. Right. I mean, we're looking
this
at
came from the ground.
Yeah. You look at the role of nickel, for example, or lithium.
Yeah. We did a show on that. Actually, one of our sponsors, we did a show on that.
Yeah, you guys check that video. That was some good information on that. You know, we did the research on it, and some very interesting. I learned a lot through that. So
well, but that's ultimately the thing. We're so detached from where things come from.
Yeah.
They come from the earth, and the biggest companies in the world, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're the ones mining this stuff. They're the ones that are pulling it out and turning it into laptops,
Yeah.
right?
As long as the countries are benefiting from, like in the case of Niger, I feel
Right.
bad for them.
I do too.
That gold belonged to them, and yet France is the one that's controlling
And that's
the
ultimately the
profit.
thing, right?
So that's, to me, was like,
It's he who controls, he or she,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
controls the profit off of basically the things that come from the ground.
The ground, yeah. So just to go back quickly to that Arctic.
Yeah.
So the reason why China went in is because China was thinking in terms of long, you know how
Yeah.
Chinese think. They think in 20, 25, 30, 30. They already have the plans for
Yeah.
2030,
Yeah.
2040, 49.
So does the World Economic Forum, it seems.
So interesting enough.
Mhm.
So they went ahead and invested with the Russians
Yeah.
in the Arctic. And one of the objectives for it was to build a pipeline. And the pipeline is going to be bringing natural gas.
Yeah.
Russia is rich in natural gas. Look now just what's going on in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need to look far. But there is another reason to all that, and it has to do with the melting ice.
Yeah.
China calculated
Nice, yeah.
that it make more sense for the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative,
Right.
instead of going the other way down all the way around. Now
Mhm.
you got the melting ice.
Yep. Yep.
There is another objective to all this, is that China and Russia will both benefit from having that pipeline that could deliver gas through Turkey.
Yeah.
So, of course, at that time, they didn't expect these tensions to be.
Right.
And that begs the question, could it be the reason why the United States and collective West, well, the West, when I say collective West, West is just following.
Yeah,
They can't do squat about it. Include all of them.
Yeah.
UK, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, all of them are useless. As a matter of fact, I just find out yesterday that guess who wants now to get into NATO?
Who?
Ireland, which
Ireland?
was like, oh my gosh.
Well, it's the wrong side of the.
I
It's
know.
the wrong
Yeah.
location.
Yeah, the Irish
To
people,
be useful.
Irish people are already fed up with that.
Yeah.
They're like, you know,
Why?
because they're seeing what's going on in Ukraine and they don't
Yeah.
want to. So the idea of
That's
how
smart.
China was thinking in terms of economics,
Mhm.
and of course having access to $35 trillion,
Yeah.
how can you forgo that?
Right.
But back then I argued that this will trigger geopolitical conflicts in the Arctic.
Well, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, and that was the reason why that one-star general from NATO
Mhm.
attended that talk,
Wow.
because he wanted to
And
almost confirm.
you know, that was a couple of years ago, right?
It was, yeah.
So-
Unfortunately, those were off record, off
Uh-huh.
limit to public. That was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
for military. Wasn't.
Well, but David, that's really interesting because
Yeah.
as we're looking at the conflict, since we know democracy is a rough, it's a rough reason to
Yeah.
be doing this, considering all other foreign policy. That seems honestly the most ridiculous thing to say.
That's true.
But what is this actually about? And if we are looking at the resources argument that you just made,
Yeah.
that to me is the thing that makes the most sense.
Yeah. It's literally, that's what it is.
It's all about
I mean,
economics, right?
Well, yeah,
it's all
because
about money.
and here is where I see the problem
Mhm.
about economics, but the population doesn't benefit from that. This is where I see the problem.
Right.
You know, and I'm not advocating for you go do that so you can benefit the population. That's not what I'm
No.
advocating
Yeah.
for. No.
Yeah.
Because it's not the right thing to
No,
do.
it is not.
You know, but with this kind of behavior, at some point, the country is gonna push back, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
Right.
So it becomes now on us, the citizens, to think in terms of, okay, if the government is embarking on this nonsense, crazy policies,
Yeah.
shouldn't we voice our concern? And that's why
Yes.
I said in one of the videos, I don't remember which one, that I think on the other channel,
Yeah.
maybe this one, I don't know, remember, for the idea of Taiwan
Yeah.
and all that. You know, it might not work for Japan's government to think that the US will sort of turn over its military hardware and all that
Yeah.
if the population here in the US doesn't back that up.
Yeah.
I mean, we all saw what happened in Vietnam,
Yeah.
let alone the atrocities being committed. We all
Yeah.
know what happened in Laos,
Yeah.
in Cambodia.
Yeah.
Those are, and this is why, guys, it's very important. It's very important. You read up on things.
Yeah. On history
Yeah,
specifically.
read up on it on your own. Get a book or two and read up on certain things, because we can only say so much,
Right.
and this is what's going to differentiate you from others.
Right.
The masses are just willing to consume whatever,
Yeah.
you
And not think about it, not think their way
No,
through
they don't.
it. Absolutely.
and this is the problem here we have in the US, because the population, and I look at it again, I've been keeping my eyes open on this for the last 30 years or so.
Mhm.
You kind of realize that the masses are just not equipped to think critically.
Yeah.
It's because the system wants to ensure that you don't think critically.
Yep.
Because the moment you start thinking critically,
Yep.
you're going to ask questions, you're going to start asking questions that
Yeah.
matter.
Right. Right.
You know.
Like, why are we fighting a war with
Yeah.
Russia? Why are we
Yeah.
doing that?
So, and the moment you start doing that,
Mhm.
you become a threat to the government.
Well, the government doesn't want to share power.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that doesn't even seem to be with the people.
Even though our constitution says so.
Yeah.
Government is
it
for
does.
the people, by the people.
Right. And that does not seem to be what's happening. And and David, I think you and I talk about this a lot, that we love our country.
Of course.
We love
of
it
course,
here.
Of course.
You dedicated a large portion of your life to protecting it.
Yeah.
And we don't want it to fail.
And that's the reason why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. Is
So-
we actually want the United States to succeed and to bring prosperity back to
Yeah.
the United States.
But also be fair.
But to also be fair.
fair.
Absolutely.
Be fair.
I think that's part
You
of
know, because I'm
prosperity.
looking at it right now with the real life examples. China in this case.
Yeah.
Why aren't we cooperating with
That's a
China?
Great question.
That's, to me, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
A win-win. Everybody would win
Right.
if we cooperate. I'm not saying you be submissive or
Right.
vice versa for them to be submissive.
Absolutely.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just the idea of cooperating instead of creating these tensions. Why? Because as a citizen, I see the benefit of cooperation, where it will lead to
Right.
on both ends.
Right.
We all both benefits. Citizens will benefit, government will benefit,
Mhm.
countries will benefit, the whole damn world will benefit,
Yeah.
for that matter.
Yeah.
So instead of being kind of, just for the sake of keeping humanity insane,
Yeah.
instead of triggering, conflict here, conflict there, and creating this division,
Yeah.
what for?
What for?
What
Yeah.
for? What for?
Absolutely.
And that's the whole reason for why. I know there are those who saying, well, you criticize America, Allah, whatever. As I always say, it's a weak argument.
Well, and the thing is, it's not even about criticizing America. If America was doing well,
Yeah.
if we were doing
We would,
well
we would
here,
say it.
we would absolutely say,
Advocate for
this
that.
works. This is
Yeah.
fantastic. You guys should try it. This is great. But the people here aren't being taken care of. This is not an amazing situation. We're not doing well.
No. And
We're in decline.
no. If you ask me, did I expect to see America, whether it's 30 years ago? I said no,
Yeah.
most likely. But it was a different America back then. Even though 30
It
years
was.
ago
It was.
was starting to get also on that path, because this one didn't start 30 years ago.
Yeah.
This one goes way back to the 70s.
Yeah.
And things start to, you can just, because one thing about in world history, when events unfold, they don't happen quick overnight.
Right.
They move gradually, and with that gradual move, the intensity of the issues gets very complicated.
Yeah.
That's why you see, for example, 20 years in Afghanistan,
Mm.
15, 16 years or 18 years or whatever that was in Iraq.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing this conflict in Ukraine, and you're seeing the tensions that's been brewing
Taiwan,
about the Taiwan Strait. All this gives you an idea as
Yeah.
to where things, how they are going.
Yeah.
It takes time for it, and it becomes, at least, and I speak for myself, for me to go to bed in peace,
Yeah.
because I always ask myself question before I go to bed. What have I done today?
Yeah.
What have I accomplished today?
Yeah.
That's for me to check on myself. I don't need anybody to tell me. And I
Right.
don't wait for anybody to tell me.
Right.
Then you say to yourself, okay, well, if I didn't even contribute something to humanity, then what was the purpose of my day here?
Right.
What did I do?
Right.
If it is just a matter of, grabbing a bite to eat and go to bed and wake
Mhm.
up and do it all over again, what's the point?
Yeah. No,
That
there
becomes
isn't. Yeah.
that becomes a monotonous
It
existence.
becomes the rat race.
Yeah,
It becomes the rat race that everyone gets stuck in.
yeah,
The like go to sleep, wake up, do the same work, don't really contribute much of anything, don't really feel any meaning.
yeah.
It's the cycle that they want you to get stuck in.
That's funny you said the meaning.
Yeah.
I was thinking a couple of days ago, believe it or not. I was
Yeah.
just thinking, I don't know why it led me. You know what I was thinking about?
Huh.
About the life of a king or a queen.
Well, that's
You know,
interesting. Yeah.
In what way? Do they ask themselves, do I have a meaningful life?
Yeah.
Does their life has a meaning?
Yeah.
Does their lives have a meaning?
Yeah.
Because they have everything.
Right. Right.
Makes you just wonder, does it cross their minds, a king or queen? Does it cross his or her mind when he or she wakes up to
Yeah.
ask, what a boring life I have?
Yeah.
Because they have everything.
Yeah.
They don't work for
Well,
anything.
I hope that I think it depends on which one, right? But I hope that
Yeah.
they also understand that they have responsibility. And I think that this is for our politicians also, because they have everything too.
Well,
Our
here's the thing.
politicians are multimillionaires.
Yeah, I'll give you an example on that.
Yeah.
Tie it to our topic.
Yeah.
Think of the British monarchy.
Yeah. Hands down.
Yeah, how much the wedding costs.
Right.
Not the wedding. I'm sorry, the coronation for Charles, the king.
Yeah. Yeah.
While the inflation is, so who paid for that?
Right. Right.
Again, are the British also to blame? British people for, God protected the king,
Yeah.
God protect the queen. God has
Yeah.
nothing to do with it, however you perceive God to be.
Right.
But the reality is, you are paying high bills in food and in energy, and at the same time, your hard-earned dollars, pound in this case,
Right.
had to support the lifestyle of a monarchy.
Well, and that's crazy because the monarchy is one of the wealthiest families in existence.
How did they acquire that?
That's a great question. Who owns all the gold mines in Scotland?
Ah,
I wonder
yeah,
who owns all of those. Is it the people?
yeah. Well,
No,
then
it's not.
if King Charles wants to be remembered in history, he needs to do the right thing
Yeah.
and return the gold to the rightful owners.
I have a feeling that's
I
not
guess
gonna
I'm too
happen.
optimistic. I'm too optimistic. So
But no, you're absolutely right.
I'm too optimistic.
When it gets to the stuff, and it can get overwhelming, right? It
Yeah.
can get overwhelming to sit and think about how complicated these things actually are.
Yeah,
But it's just one of those things where you can't just read the headlines from your favorite news outlet.
yeah,
It's not going to tell you what's actually going on.
yeah.
But in the sense of the coronation, that the royal family could have paid for that.
I know.
Easy, they could have paid for
Heck,
that.
the king was charging people to view the queen
Yeah.
when she died. If you wanted to
That's
see,
actually-
pay for it. You believe
Yeah.
that? And yet some Brits did it.
Yeah.
You don't blame all of them.
Right.
Are they brainless? Are
Yeah.
they that dumb? Are they that stupid? You pay to see the queen. That's ridiculous. It's kind of it becomes on them.
Right.
But it just shows you where things are. How and again, I look at it from this angle of you creating provocations with it.
Yeah.
And again, the average Brit
Yeah.
does not understand that there are certain type of missiles Russia has developed. Those are hypersonics.
Yeah.
It will take no time. Before that, their fighter jets, the Brits fighter jets,
Yeah.
make it to the air. It'll be too late.
Yeah.
That's how fast those missiles are, and those can be nuclear tipped.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if the Brits understand the severity of provoking
I
Russia
don't
like
think-
this.
Does anyone, do you
Yeah.
think, actually, do any of the governments actually understand what the severity
Yeah.
of the consequences might be here? Because
I don't
at the
think so.
very beginning, I think there was all the talk of like maybe World War III or whatever, and then people just sort of forgot about that. But the reality is that as things get poked and provoked and provoked and provoked, what is the
What is-
outcome, right?
That's
So
true.
we have two choices. We have peace, or we have a really big war problem.
Destruction, complete
Right.
destruction, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't care who's making money off of this situation, and I don't care about the natural resources.
Yeah.
It is in humanity's best interest
Yeah.
to find peace, because the alternative is much worse.
Worse. Yeah. Well, when you look at it now, what the Brits did, only to realize that a month before,
Yeah.
the US did the same thing.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
check it
Oh,
out.
you're right. You're right. You're
Four
right.
US strategic bombers in the Baltic in two separate incidents.
Yeah.
So the Russians also had to escort those out. Now, to be fair, in our reporting on this is none of them crossed into
Yes.
the Russian airspace. That's
Yes.
very important for you guys to know. So,
Well,
but the fact that the US did it first, then now the Brits,
Mhm.
it's kind of
it's
why?
poking boundaries, right?
Yeah, why?
It's poking boundaries.
Why?
But that's sort of been NATO's tactic all along, is like, how far can we actually push Russia, right? That's why we have the expansions,
Yeah,
because that was
Which,
a promise that
yeah.
the expansions wouldn't happen.
and we
Okay,
broke the promise.
Well, so we broke the promise.
Yeah,
And why did we break the promise? Why? And you and I didn't do anything, but
Yeah.
why did NATO break the promise? Why did the US break the promise? And I think those are the questions that have to be asked, but those are the hard questions to answer. And the easy answer is democracy. So people are
Yeah.
looking at the easy answer of Putin bad, which I personally believe that Putin is also responsible for his actions. I
how?
understand.
How is he
Well,
responsible?
Because I believe that he is. So I do understand that he was very clearly provoked, because especially at first the
Uh-huh.
media said, oh, it's unprovoked, unprovoked.
Yeah,
That's just lies. Like, that's just
Yeah.
not true.
yeah,
Those are people who really don't have any understanding of why anything happens. Okay.
yeah.
So,
But in this case, it's clear why it happened.
right, it's very
Yeah,
clear why
yeah.
it happened. However, I do think that people are responsible for their actions. So in this conflict,
Yeah,
I don't know how else he could have handled it.
Yeah.
I do not know. But the situations that there are casualties, I believe that there is responsibility that needs to be taken, whether they believe it's right or not.
yeah,
Because everyone feels that they're doing the right thing always, right?
Mhm.
People never sit and say, well, I'm the villain in this story.
yeah.
Everyone believes they're the one that's the hero. Everyone believes they're the one doing the right thing for
Okay.
whatever reasons they have in their head. So I do feel that no matter what,
Yeah.
if there are casualties in a situation, if you have caused misery, that is on you also.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that he is right or wrong, but I do feel that he should take
Well, I think
responsibility.
he did defend his own nation. And again, I'm not
Yeah.
defending Putin here. I mean, I no. It's just what he did was a reaction to defending to defending his country.
Yeah.
That's
No, I agree.
that's to me how I see his reaction is.
Yeah,
Because we expanded all the way to its doorsteps.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely, we did.
that is where I see it.
It's weird to say we, because you and I didn't do anything,
Well,
right?
I know,
Yeah,
we
we're
collective
NATO,
West
US,
and all
collective
that stuff.
West,
So
right.
that's to me why we've been trying. We've
Yeah.
been trying to have Putin removed,
Yeah.
but it's not gonna work. I mean, the senator Lindsey Graham called for his assassination.
Yeah,
You
but
believe
that
that?
guy, man.
Well, it tells you right there.
Yeah.
You know, that just shows you right there.
Yeah.
You know, that's how brainwashed some of us Americans have become. For senator
Yeah.
to be calling on an assassination of a head of state,
No, honestly,
that just defies any international law.
and I actually think that defies human decency,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest.
Well, Lindsey Graham is, we all know.
Yeah,
His,
we all
his-
know how he is.
He's one of those. He's one of those. So that is where are we done here? Or
Well,
we
I think we are. We're about
Whoa.
half an hour over, but we got really into
Whoa,
this.
Well, good.
Um,
So tomorrow we'll do another one. Do we have a live
Yep,
stream
we
tomorrow?
have another live stream
Yeah.
tomorrow. We did this one extra because last week I had some stuff going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, tomorrow.
So tomorrow. So remember, guys, join me out later on the other channel. I'll be doing I think Australia.
yeah,
or
tell us
Australia.
what time
It's
and
at 2
where.
o'clock.
2 o'clock, and guys, it is on geopolitical trends.
Yeah.
So if you type in geopolitical trends into YouTube, you'll find it, and it's 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, 2 o'clock I'll be doing today.
Or today. Sorry.
Today.
Sorry.
Yeah, because tomorrow I'll be here. then after that I'm leaving the country for a few days.
Mhm.
Then I come back. So we any questions, by the way? We can just answer at least one.
There's no way
None?
I can scroll through. I'm sure there are. There's a lot going on in the chat.
I always like to answer one or two.
I know, but
Yeah.
there's no way I
None.
can scroll all the way up here.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well, we'll do it
David.
tomorrow. Tomorrow, guys, just make sure you type it big, big font, so whatever, so we can see it. So, well, we hope you guys find this very informative, and we look forward. By the way, guys, make sure to subscribe if you have not done so already. We truly appreciate it. As you may know, that's your way of supporting the channel, so we want it to grow a little bit. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. As always, prepare yourself for changing world order. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.